In Task 1 of the writing exam for IELTS General Training, you will be given the task of writing a letter to someone. What you need to write depends on the task that is set for you, so you should pay close attention to the exam paper. Today we're going to examine this part of the IELTS exam and look at two different questions and sample answers to see how we could write the perfect letter. For IELTS General Writing Task 1, you have 20 minutes to write 150 words. This is just the same as for IELTS Academic. The value of this part of the exam is half of Task 2, so don't spend too much time on it. Many students prefer to write Task 2 first, and then do Task 1 quickly at the end. You can see here part of a genuine practice exam paper from the British Council. At this part of the exam, you need to write a letter to someone. It will need to be written in an informal, semi-formal, or formal style. To decide which style to use, you should read the question carefully and think about the context. Knowing which tone to use, informal or formal, requires analyzing the question carefully. In most cases, it's pretty simple to choose. Consider the following as a basic guide. A general rule of tone is to use formal language for people who are in positions of authority or to whom you are writing a very serious letter. If it is related to business or law, you would certainly use formal language. Informal is typically reserved for people you are very close to, like immediate friends and family. Semi-formal might be people who work with and know you well, but they're not close enough for you to consider good friends. It should be pretty clear from the questions which of the above styles to choose. If you really don't know, it is best to err on the side of caution and write more formally. When it comes to actually writing these different styles, students often get confused. What makes a letter formal or informal? And perhaps more confusingly, what is a semi-formal style? Here is a very brief set of examples. One more thing to consider about the tone of a letter is the actual language you would use in the body of the letter. Generally speaking, for informal letters to friends or family, you can use slang and contractions. Contractions means changing I have to I've and so on. But for semi-formal and formal letters, it is best to avoid these things. What you should actually write in the body of the letter entirely depends upon the requirements of the task. The question will be very specific, and you should make sure to answer everything. Do not leave anything unanswered. Read the question carefully and make some notes about what you want to write. At the end, read your letter and make sure that you answered each of the points. This is very, very important. Remember, it is difficult to improve your vocabulary and grammar, but it is easy to answer the question. This will help balance out your marks, potentially giving you a higher band score. Now let's look at two example questions and figure out what we need to write. Here's the first one. And here is the second. Which of these two examples should be written in a formal style? Of course, it is example 1. You must write that very formally, whereas example 2 should be written informally because it is to a friend. In terms of details, what you should write, you simply follow the instructions in each question. These are very straightforward and you should have no problem achieving the 150-word count. You can add extra information if necessary, but you don't have to. As for paragraphs, it's up to you. Generally, writing 2 or 3 short body paragraphs is sufficient. A letter requires less stringent paragraphing than an essay. You could write 1 short paragraph for each point in the question or join 2 of them together if they are closely related. One problem that IELTS students often face is having to quickly come up with an idea for their letter. This is also true for the essay for task 2, or indeed for part 2 of the speaking exam. This is actually a big challenge, and even IELTS teachers like me can find it hard to think of an idea quickly. I wrote an article about generating ideas for IELTS a few months ago that might be helpful. I'll link that down below in the description. While you're reading down there in the description, why don't you go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful, and if you haven't already, you can subscribe to the channel. The key here is to be realistic but imaginative. You need to quickly think of some ideas about the task, keeping in mind all the required points, but make sure they are plausible. Don't get too crazy with your imagination. Remember also, whatever you think of needs to be something that you can write about easily. It is often a good idea to think of something that you already know. If the question relates to work, for example, you should write about a job that you are familiar with. If it is about sport, write about a sport that you know well. The reason for this is that you will be able to draw upon a much wider vocabulary. Next, I'm going to give you 2 sample answers for the previous questions, question 1 and question 2. I've written these carefully to match the tone and requirements of the questions. You should read these and consider them as useful guides to write your own letters. Of course, don't ever copy something like this, but you can use them as inspiration, as a sort of model. Pay attention to how I have used tone, such as the greeting and the sign-off, as well as contractions. Note how personal the second one is compared to the first, and how I've used names. Example 1. Dear Sir or Madam, I recently read in the local newspaper the distressing news that you are considering closing our local sports centre. While I understand the importance of maintaining the council's budget, I really must disagree with this closure. The sports centre is very important to the community as it provides a place for people to get fit and to make friends. In these days of fast food and desk jobs, it is more important than ever that we have a place to get some exercise. Young people use it to build important skills, and people of all ages meet their friends there to do sports together. Robbing us of this would be an incredibly poor decision. My friends and I use the sports centre every week to play tennis. It is our only option, and I do hope that you don't take it away from us. There are so many people like us, and removing this sports centre would cause great damage to our lives and our community. Yours sincerely, David Wills. Example 2. Hi Sam, I'm moving out of my house in 2 weeks, and I remember last year you said that you really liked my old oak dining table. If you want, you can have it at no cost. My new place doesn't really have much space for that sort of thing, and anyway, I don't often have big meals with lots of people, so let me know if you'd like it. If you do want it, obviously we'll have to figure out the details of getting it from my house to yours. It's not going to be easy. I suppose you'll need to hire a big van or maybe get a moving company to come and sort it out for you. As I said, I move in 2 weeks, so there's a time limit on this. The new people move in just after I move out, so it's best to get it sorted before then. Give me a call and we can arrange the pickup. Cheers, David. So a few final words as a way of conclusion. Remember to read the question carefully, answer all parts, and pick an appropriate tone for your letter, formal, semi-formal, or informal. Try to think of ideas quickly and leave time for yourself at the end of the exam so that you can check your answers. Right, I hope this video has been useful for you. Please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And maybe you can share it on Facebook with some other IELTS students that you know to help them. Right, I've been David Wills. It's been a pleasure to teach you. I'll see you again for another video next time.